In 2017, Taiwanese developer Red Candle released their first game, Detention. To this day, it is still one of my favorite games, and I spoke about it at length in this video, which I would recommend checking out. Needless to say, I've been eagerly anticipating this game for quite a while, and I'm happy to say that I was not disappointed. The best way to describe Devotion would be as a slow burn. The game gets better and more interesting as it goes along, featuring deep subtext and fascinating surreal imagery to tell its story. It's set in 1980s Taiwan and centers around a family of 3. Despite not really meeting these characters, you still get to understand their viewpoints and why they do what they do, no matter how horrifying that can be. The game's story is an exploration into the darker side of religious families and traditions, and the consequences that these paths can lead to. While maintaining the same tone as Detention, Devotion is a complete departure of style. While their first game was a stylized side-scroller, Devotion is a photorealistic FPS that has lost very little in the translation. If making these kinds of games is something Red Candle wants to continue doing, mixing up the medium like this might be a good way of keeping it fresh. I originally thought that their second game was a smaller story, given that much of the game revolves around the family house, which I initially felt was a step down from the high school in Detention. After finishing Devotion, however, I can only applaud its scale in terms of both storytelling and horror. The game also features a great deal of live-action television, including several commercials and an episode of a game show, which were all made exclusively for the game. The soundtrack is equally as impressive as it is gorgeous. Out of all of the first-person flashlight horror games drenching Steam, this is by unequivocally the best I have played. Both the gameplay and story take some unexpected turns. The scares are effective enough that even in places where I knew my character wouldn't be killed, I still felt physically unsafe. The voice acting is great enough to transcend the language barrier with some really powerful deliveries from the main actor in particular towards the end. The only downsides I would have is that the loading screens can become a touch tedious. There's an extended sequence where you are tasked with solving puzzles across multiple different rooms, and every time you enter or exit a room you're faced with a 10 to 30 second load screen. There are also times where loading screens interrupted dramatic moments, and even a time where it interrupted dialogue. Nevertheless, the imagination, the guttural horror, and its sheer power to sway you in so many emotional directions easily overshadow these small technical problems. The game is rather short, so I don't want to give away much more, but if you're interested in horror in any capacity, Devotion is an incredible game from a very promising new developer. If I had to attribute a score, it would be a solid 9 out of 10. If the quality of Resident Evil 2 and Devotion are anything to go by, 2019 will be a wonderful year.
好了，来跟慈姑观音说你要求什么。